Hey everyone, welcome to Dissect, our Throneway podcast on exploring the beauty hidden within Christian music and artists. So, episode 2, we have a fun, fresh new face.
Remember me? Might not, because I wasn't actually in the last episode, but
You should remember her. But we know, we were really missing something, and now I feel like puzzle piece it fits, perfect fit.
yeah, it's like new episode, new vibes, like see what works.
Yeah, we really budgeted up, with all the funding we got from the last episode.
Look where we are.
Could afford this place.
Yeah.
So thank you for all your comments, all the likes and packages, even the death threats. It was just getting so much.
It was really awesome, but
staying up all night reading every comment.
Yeah, I feel like we can always talk about this, but I want to introduce ourselves.
Facts.
Yeah, actually, fun fact. I don't know if many people know this, but Maria actually can speak fluent Scottish.
I can.
Yeah,
Can I have a glass of water?
Wow. What does that even mean?
Can I have
that's insane. You surprise me every single time. Yeah.
You're welcome, Amy. And my turn.
Okay, yeah.
Amy here is an avid crochet and embroiderer.
Yeah.
So if you have any requests for any what is it, commission? You take commission?
Yeah. 6 to 8 business years.
Years.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah, years. If you want a baby blanket, I can give it to you by the time your child goes to college. Perfect.
Right when you need it.
Exactly. That's what I like.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we have a really exciting artist that we'll be covering today.
Yes.
Very highly acclaimed, quite in the mainstream.
Yeah.
I did first hear her on the radio.
Yeah.
Drum roll, please. Lauren Daigle.
Woo!
So do you want to tell us a bit about Lauren's her past, what growing up looked like, or what just maybe a little bit of a bio?
Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff that I think I learned a lot through this experience, which I feel also highlights a lot in the album. But one of the big things that I feel she kind of talks about in numerous interviews was there was a time in her high school life where she got this really bad illness, and it caused her to be kind of home for a long period of time. And during this time I remember her sharing how there's a lot of time of isolation and reflection, and it just brought her to this place where she had a lot of creativity, a door open per se, and that's where she feels her passion grew and her passion flew and just really developed into the person she was. And so when we were I guess researching or talking about this artist, a lot of times we connected to just her as a person and her artist, and I feel in her music there's a big connection to her personality. You can see it in her music, and I think as we go through this album, which is an amazing album, she connects a lot to that experience of isolation and this album. Yeah, the solitude. And the album came out in 2018, so it's interesting. I think time wise, when it came out, even for the world, during it's right before the pandemic, which was really interesting. But yeah.
I definitely did not use my time of solitude in the pandemic well.
It feels different for each person, kind of thing.
Multi-million stream songs. But someone who did use their time in quarantine well, St. Ignatius of Loyola, funny enough, before he was this saint powerhouse, theologian that we know him as today, he was actually a knight, and in battle, he was once hit in the leg by a cannonball. And so it's really fractured right leg, damage to the left, and he was bedridden for however long. So he had a lot of spare time where he was reading up on the lives of the saints of Christ, and he found, or he realized over time, that he was getting really engaged and kind of captured by the stories that he was reading and visualizing them, and that he found that he had more fulfilling time visualizing the stories of the saints than remembering his time on the battlefield.
Wow.
And that really led him to his journey towards sainthood.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was just, it was just reminded of that, thinking of how beautiful solitude can be, or that time of silence, of isolation, and of how we can use that to inspire creativity, to lead us in a new direction, which is what we see coming out in this album.
I feel that was so cool that you mentioned how in his time of suffering also, rather than reflecting on his own pain, he turned it to the saints of, and he is a saint, which is so beautiful. I think that connection. And it's also such an inspiration to like look at what suffering is and how, you know, the pandemic looks so different for each person. And I think like that was always so interesting to me. And I thought that's a really cool story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you,
for sharing,
Maria.
Maria.
I did hear about Lauren Daigle from quite a few of our friends also. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about her.
Yeah.
Our friend Kaham had mentioned that her song, Still Rolling Stones, was the walkout song of a UFC fighter.
No way.
Yeah, we can watch a little snippet of it here.
I feel like that was really cool. Like, I don't know, like when you bring such a hype song, because it is a really cool song. Like, I hadn't heard of this song up until like, you know, we did the research, but it was like on repeat every single time. It was so like, it kind of felt like you were walking into a crowded room, like everyone's screaming. And so to see that like imagery in this video, it was like I can feel that like while I'm listening to it. It's like it like brings out the same message, I feel, which was so cool.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it was so inspirational to use that song in such a secular setting.
Yeah.
And then for all of our fans, let us know in the comments down below what your walkout song is. I'd love to hear it. But this fighter in particular, in an interview, had mentioned like why he loved that song and like why he chose it.
Yeah.
He said, "You can be the toughest guy in the world, but when you understand grace, it breaks you down." And that song does it for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to be the toughest person in the world. I don't need to be a savage. I need to be a servant in all the things I do.
Wow.
That last line particularly hit me of just thinking of like this huge like UFC fighter saying like, I don't need to be a savage, I need to be a servant.
Yeah.
I think that would like really like captured the message for me of this song and also of this album of our identity, of who we need to be, and who our identity should be based off of, which we'll get into a bit later. So I guess to start us off, do you want to give us a little bit more context into like the album as a whole?
Yeah, so for me, when I was listening to this album, like the word that came into my mind was definitely resilience, or like a story of resiliency per se, because it was a lot of like her journey of faith, her journey of like coming out of like a burnout phase of, you know, just this time of like silence within her heart, and it came up to that point. And so I feel like she kind of said in an interview that this track was at times wild, vibrant, and loud, and then it sounds like rich and soulful, which I feel like is such a good like representation of the album itself, because there are so many like, you know, with the lyricism as well as with the tunes. I felt like it was, yeah, that just like encompasses, I guess, the whole album. It was for me like it kind of reminded me of also like walking into a desert. Like it was very much like you enter into this like, you know, lonely desert by yourself, but then, you know, you're brought into this time where you're I don't know, like you're called into the light. You're called into this promised land. And I feel like she does a really good job of like emulating that journey. And which is why like, you know, that I guess that album is resilience to me. So
because the journey isn't easy.
No,
like, the time in the desert is not by any means something that you can really appreciate like right away in the moment. It takes a bit of like grace and maturity.
Yeah. And I feel like we kind of see, oh, well, we'll talk about it later, but I think it's like you could see that journey, which is such a big reason why I love her as an artist, because she's like a very visual like artist. Like for example, for folks who watched like the last episode, like KB was very like poetic with his lyrics, but I feel like Lauren is very like visual with her lyrics. Like she wants you to be able to place yourself in the music, and you know.
That was really interesting to hear your perspective of how you approached this album, because I think for me, I heard You Say first. Like that was the first song I listened to. So then every other song I listened to, I viewed like from the lens of You Say.
Oh, like it like added an extra level of perspective kind of thing.
So You Say to me was very childlike.
Right.
It was very taking away from myself.
Yeah.
And looking at Christ and saying, like you say, I'm strong when I'm feeling weak, right? So the whole song and then to the rest of the album, I was just thinking, in my weakness, God is glorified.
Yeah.
In my weakness, I see God's power.
Yeah.
And that is how I approach the whole album. So I do appreciate seeing like your perspective. I think it just reminds me of, I was watching this video of this like Michelin star chef reviewing like fine dining scenes of different like like I don't know, movies and shows.
Yeah.
And you won't believe it. The best, most accurate fine dining scene is apparently Ratatouille,
No
according to
way.
this one man.
Like the food, like
Not
the
the rat.
the rat in the hat, but the
We don't know. New York, maybe.
right.
But anyways, what I loved about it, and he was talking about the scene where the critic is reviewing the dish, right? Like that was apparently like peasant food, or just such a simple dish that you would see at like a fine dining, that you wouldn't see it at a fine dining restaurant. So it kind of threw you off a bit. But why the critic reviewed it so highly is because it brought him back to that memory of him having it at his mother's house, having it served to him from his mother's hands, and that warmth, that nostalgia that he had as soon as he had that first bite, the meaning that was evoked from that meal, that's what made it such a perfect meal. And that's what I think really makes a perfect song, is the meaning it evokes. It doesn't need to have the most complex lyrics, the highest production value.
Right.
I want it to mean something.
Right.
And to like bring it back to, or really inspire introspection and reflection into our own lives, our own faith journeys. And I think that was the experience that I had going into this album, and then particularly with You Say.
Yeah. That's really beautiful that like you shared that, because I think like that it's at the simplicity of like the story, and I feel like sometimes in our world we try to like overcomplicate a lot of things, that we try to like make it like, you know, we try to find these answers, and you know, but it's like so simple as like, you know, a homemade dish, or like a comfort of like a hug of a friend, like, you know what I mean, like it's so easy, like the answer feels so simple. So I really liked how like that, like you made that analogy. Yeah, I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think this song is such a reminder of the words "I am yours."
Yeah.
As Lauren uses themselves
Yeah.
in her music, in the lyricism of this song, I think back to actually the concept we talked about in the last episode, RIM.
Yeah.
For all those who may have missed it, RIM refers to relationship, identity, mission.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that our relationship with Christ comes first.
Yeah.
And then based on that is where we find our identity.
Right.
And then based on the first two is where we find our mission.
Right.
Like what we're supposed to do.
It's like all connected kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this song really played, or really kind of revealed that concept that I am yours. You say I'm strong when I feel weak. When I don't belong, like you say I am yours, right? And so that reminder of like our relationship with Christ is first, and that is where we find our identity.
Right.
I think that's what was like well encapsulated here.
Yeah. No, I think I really liked that, just that sharing of that, because I think it's very much like a gentle hug. Like, I don't know, like for me, like a lot of things that came from the song were like self-compassion and self-confidence. It's like, you know, like sometimes we feel so useless, sometimes we feel so weak, but I think it's like a gentle reminder. It's like, you know, like, no, like my child, like, you know, you say, you know, or it's like that, you know, we think we're not good enough, you know, like, you know, we sin so much, or like we do all these things that make God so mad, like how can God love us? But no, like this song, it's like, no, like, you know, you are so loved, even if, you know, you feel like you can't be. Or it's like the line that says, like, you know, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. Sometimes in our faith, we're so driven by emotion, that when we don't feel that emotion, we feel like that's the absence of the faith. But I feel like this song is like similar to what you're saying. It's like, no, it's like my child. It's like, no, like regardless of what you feel, regardless of what you can't see, it's like, I'm yours. Like you are mine. Like that was set from the moment that you were conceived, at the moment that I placed you on this earth. It's like you were mine. And it's like, it's sometimes, it's like for me, that's like such a big message. I can't even fathom. It's like, you know, I was already chosen, and you know, you didn't have to do anything. But like in this world where like so many things tell us otherwise, you know, I think that this was also such a gentle reminder of that. And yeah,
That's beautiful. Thank you, Amy.
but yeah, I think I just think that this song also talks a lot about like that childlikeness that you're mentioning, about how I don't know, the childlike coming to, you know, her. And so I think it connects a lot to like the next song that we'll talk to, which is like Look Up Child, which I think also plays into that, like, you know, childlike
zeal.
yeah, childlike perspective. And it's like, you know, I think a big thing for me, it's like, you know, in my undergrad, or like after graduating from undergrad, it's like I experienced a lot of like you say in my life kind of thing. But I think, you know, in a lot of times uncertainty, or like when things don't go the way that you think it is, and so you kind of feel like, okay, plan A, plan B are not gonna happen. Oh shoot, like what's next? It's like you kind of feel like kind of like
the weight of the world is on your shoulders.
exactly. It's like you can't even see anything in the future because it's so like out of your hands, right? And I feel like I felt a lot of that throughout that time, like, you know, like 6 months ago, or whatever that may be. But I always felt like in the back of my mind, whether it's like a little voice, whether that be like through people around me or like through experiences, it's like I felt that line, like, you know, you say, you know, you are loved, even though you know, like you don't feel a thing. And I felt like it's like, you know, God gave me experiences of people. God gave me experiences of like, of experiences that like was that reminder that wasn't like word for word. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was just kind of like another thing that really stood out to me from this song.
I think it's, yeah, very, as you're saying, like very inherent to see the cohesion within the album of like that, having that childlike perspective, coming from You Say and then now Look Up Child. It reminds me a lot of like Saint Teresa Lisia's little way of in recognizing our nothingness, to expect everything from God as as a little child does from her father. To be disquieted by nothing. According to her words, she resolves and says, I never wanted to grow up in spirit, so as to avoid taking credit for whatever good that I might do. Rather, to remain little, it means believing oneself capable of anything, while never becoming discouraged over failures. For children fall often, but they are too little to hurt themselves very much.
Right.
And I think it's a certain I don't know, I have a certain peace when I think of like a child like running up to a father and not being worried of like falling down or of getting hurt, because they have that much faith and trust that their father is going to pick them up or is going to catch them before they fall.
Yeah.
So once again, just a beautiful reminder of that.
Yeah. I think this whole experience of understanding like her journey and herself in it, do you think that like I guess, you know, listening to You Say in the past and kind of revisiting You Say now, like how does this song relate to, I guess, like the period you're in right now compared to like, I guess, you know, when you kind of started, you know, listening to her or like that, like like what are some ways that like this song connects to you in other ways? Is there any?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to think of, I guess like the person I was when I first listened to it
Right.
versus where I am now. I think I see, and we'll discuss this a bit later about the idea of answered prayers.
Yeah.
But I'm able to see like, I think I just have a bit more like of like a nuanced perspective or understanding that things are going to work out.
Right.
That my father has the best interest, or has my best interest,
Yeah.
and is taking care of me. So where younger me was like struggling to believe that,
Yeah.
whether that be, I remember like in high school, failing my final exam for math.
Yeah.
And like at that point, or like before that point, everyone in my life is kind of like, "Oh, you're so good at math. Like, you're like this is your strong suit." Like, and then it was just such a, I don't know. It really took me. Like I was like, "Wow, I didn't." Everyone around me was telling me one thing, and now I have this kind of like tangible proof of like otherwise. So I think it was like, I think back then, I think You Say really played a role of reminding me that like my identity is not based on, or I don't need to look for the validation and affirmation from like those around me.
Right.
Because everyone around me kind of sees like a snippet of me, right? And like only sees like such a small fraction of my full being.
Right.
Whereas God sees everything. He sees all the struggle. He sees the trial and tribulation. He sees everything that you're going through that makes up the full you. So it's the most like, I think it really came to be that the most sensible thing was placing my identity in him.
Yeah. Yeah, like in a way, in those times of uncertainty in yourself, it's like kind of like he whispered, like, "Oh, my child, like look up, like I'm here, like your identity doesn't need to be weighing on your chest. It's like, you know, like just place it in me, you know." And I think that's really beautiful. and it's kind of say like, oh, like, look up, child,
Yeah.
kind of vibe.
Is there a lyric from the song that kind of stood out to you for Look Up Child?
Oh, yeah, I think definitely the beginning part of that, it's like, I guess it connects to what I was talking about before, but in the line, like, even in our suffering when things can't be seen, you're in control. I think that whole like aspect of like giving God that full trust, knowing that we don't have control was something I've always struggled with, because it's so easy to want to be in control because then you can always like plan out the result. Like, it's like safe, it's like a safe net. But I think in Look Up Child, it was like a reminder for you to be like, you know, everything around me, like it's kind of like that image of like you're in a room and like everything is kind of moving really, really fast. And you're in to say that like you're kind of, yeah, everything's moving really, really fast, and like you can't like get a grounding, and then somebody like looks at you, it's like, no, no, like look at me, like pay attention to me, like I am here, just focus on me, like look up, child, like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing that resonated with me with this song, and it felt like it was like a song to me, like it was like no, like just focus on me, like keep your eye on me, and I think that was a big thing that carried me kind of throughout this song. And I think like the reason why I asked like in different seasons that is that I think like even like a couple months, difference, like those add such a big like impact in the way that you take a song, like in the message. And yeah, I think that's just that, going back to the whole aspect of like resilience and like that, like not just trusting on the emotion, but knowing that like God is in control, like kind of how you shared in your story. And yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's such a needed reminder about um, just that it's not always up to us. That there's like always going to be external factors
Yeah.
that aren't in our control, and we
Yeah.
don't need to have the weight of the world on our shoulders. We don't
Exactly.
need to feel like everything is on us.
Yeah. And I think it's also even that gentleness of coming back to him. Because I feel like sometimes when I fall in sin, or like when I fall in ways that I'm like, or like I'm not, being a witness or being loving, it's like, we like hide. We become like, um, I can't remember the story, but like there's like the analogy in the Bible where like, um, out of the shame of feeling, I mean, actually, I don't think it's in the Bible, don't quote me on that. But it's just like,
Biblical scholar over here.
it's a biblical story. It's just like the fear of like, like you want to hide from God, you feel like,
Sounds
you can't.
familiar.
Yeah, it's not like Jonah, it's not Jonah, right? Is it Jonah?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
you.
yes, 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 yes. He's like ran away.
Yeah, because he was like so like he was so afraid for some
Yes.
reason, and he like just ran away from God. Like I think
Yes.
like the main point of we're trying to get at is that like, you're shunning yourself from God because of that fear that you won't be forgiven. But I think Look Up Child was that gentleness of like, no, my child, like come back to me. Like don't fear for the fault because you're human. Like humans are not perfect. Like you are gonna fall. Like just come back. Like you know what I mean? It's kind of like when you're a little kid and like you like, I don't know, you do something wrong. You like make a mistake and like you're so afraid. Or like when I was a kid, I was always like afraid of like when I did something wrong. I was like, oh my goodness, like my parents are gonna get so mad at me. Like I'm not gonna be able to do anything. I'm gonna walk on like eggshells. But I feel like our parents kind of know like us a lot better than we think we know ourselves, and they kind of can already tell. So instead of them asking, they'd be like, what's wrong, like don't like don't hold in the fear you have, like share with me, like I'm here to like to be a part of that suffering, like let's talk about it together kind of vibe. And it's like I think it's just that beauty of that like childlikeness of like running back to him with that fear
Yeah.
of that.
That
Yeah.
really reminds me, what you're saying of how a parent can recognize your suffering.
Yeah.
Of a good friend of ours actually had shared on Mother's Day recently. This idea, the concept of like young mom or like moms of young children uh, learn to pick up over time what each cry means. Of
Right.
like, if there's like a slight change in inflection, it's like, ah, this is food. Like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
hungry.
yeah.
Or it's like, no, like, you're actually too full.
Yeah.
Now you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So why? And then she's saying like, she's like, well, so why are you surprised when you're a teenager or a young adult
Yeah.
and you're calling your mom, and when the first hello, she knows something's wrong. It's like
Yeah.
she was trained to do that
Yeah, yeah.
from such a
That's so
young age
beautiful.
to recognize like just an even slight change in inflection and tone,
Yeah.
that something's off. And it brings me back to the phrase like, to be loved is to be known.
That's a
And
beautiful phrase.
I think that imagery of how a mother knows her child so deeply and so intimately, was really helpful for me to picture like my relationship with Christ, and to the extent and the degree and the depth at which Christ knows me and he sees me in what I'm going through. So I also think like I like what the imagery that you're using is like very reminiscent to what rescue is about as well. I think the album really flows from starting to talk about where do we find our identity? Who am I? Where do I base my identity? To like, what do I do when I'm feeling hopeless? Or like, what do I like? I when I'm feeling alone. When I'm in the darkness. And in Rescue, we see a song of hope.
Right.
We see like lyricism like of you have an army like behind you. Like I am your armor. And I think that imagery is very powerful in like reminding us that like we're not on our own. We're not meant to be on our own. We're meant to have like a support system, a community. We're meant to have accountability. In this journey towards Christ. I think about like two things. One, a phrase from I think it's Blessed Carlo Acutis that said "verso l'alto," like to the heights, and like picturing him like seeing this like journey towards sainthood as like climbing a mountain, which is not very easy to do on your own.
I tried that once. It wasn't too easy.
I don't think you would climb Everest on your own, and I think it would make a lot more sense to do it with a partner that can pick you up when you're falling, that can give you comfort and solace and motivation, and which reminds me of this idea of virtuous friendship. Of having that sense of accountability, having that sense of community, and having hope in that. Really, the song really brought me back to an answered prayer that we were talking about earlier. Which was in grade 7, grade 8. I remember feeling very lonely and really feeling like I didn't have anyone that like truly understood me or truly knew me. And I remember praying to God over a couple of months, like, I just want a friend. Like genuine, like sincere, like a friend. And he answered it. Like he gave me someone who like I remember like we did every group project together. We memorized each other's home phone numbers. Like we altar served together for every mass. I remember for the month of May we altar served every single daily mass before school. Because you're trying to get the altar serving award.
Did you get it?
No. Maybe we should have had better motivations towards altar serving. But you know how like it's like it's about the journey. It's about the journey.
Not the
along the way.
I
don't know. Whatever.
So, life's about the good. You're right. You're right. Anyway.
So really, she showed me, and actually we ended up. So we moved away from each. Like we had 2 different cities, and that was like over 10 years ago. And recently we had reconnected. And she told me when she was telling her mom like, oh, I'm going to see Maria today. Her mom said, oh, I'm so happy. Like, she really was someone who kind of set the standard for friendship in your life, in like the friendships to come. And I was really like awestruck listening to like hearing that and thinking like to myself like that's like I feel the exact, and I know my mom would feel the exact same way. I really got to see an image of virtuous friendship in her, of someone having my back and leading me towards Christ, like us together. And there's so many examples of that, like Saint Ignatius of Loyola and Saint Francis Xavier being roommates, Saint Clare and Saint Francis. That we need companionship, that we need we need community on our walk to Christ.
Of course, because I feel like as humans we long and strive for connection. It's like a part of who we are. Like it's always a desire, whether that be like in a relationship or that be in a friendship. Like that is such a pivotal part of who we are, because you're right, like it shapes who we are. And it's kind of like that phrase like, oh, like it takes a village to raise a child. It really is really true. And I think it was beautiful that you shared in your story that like the connection you had as kids in a different season, a different life that you had, when you reconnected as adults in a different different time, it was as though you could just pick up and like kind of go. Like it didn't matter like what you had in between. It didn't matter like what errors you made or what like mistakes you made or things like that. Like it wasn't like your friend came back and was like, "Oh, let's take off like all the times you were a really good friend to me and you weren't, and like let's try to you fix that." Like no, like it was like, "No, Maria, like I'm so excited and I'm so thankful for the gift you were in that time in my life. Let's rekindle that." And I feel like as adults, rekindling friendships is so it's such a precious gift. It really is, because you are now more like, I guess, like cognizant of like who you are, and it's like you're rediscovering that like childlike self when you reconnect with friends like that. And I just think it's always like so beautiful to do that. And so I really, really appreciate like you sharing that story. And I think like rescue was such a like a beautiful, like a kind of like a sheep, like like the shepherd analogy where it's like,
the
like
imagery.
yeah, like no matter, how far you go, like, I will come and I will find you and I will go out of my way to do that. And I think like that could connect a lot to friendships and, a lot to like just that feeling of like you're not alone, in and I cause like I feel like all of her songs like in a way kind of connect to that like phrase of like you're not alone, like God is there. And I think it's interesting because while I was doing research for Look Up Child, she said in an interview that a big part of this album was because she felt a lot of burnout from obviously being in the industry for many years, and it's like in when you produce music, it's like the next album has to be better than the earlier album or like kind of whatever. So it's like sometimes you may feel like
That
you lose that,
pressure.
yeah, you lose that like authenticity kind of thing. And so she felt that. And so in this album, it's like you can feel that simplicity that she was like trying to just bring back to herself. That was like, like I want to be live, like I want to like be just authentic. Like there's no features in this album,
There is no features.
which is interesting because I didn't know if this was like actually like an interesting fact. So I asked like ChatGPT, like, oh, like, well, like, why would it be cool if like an artist doesn't have a feature? Like, what's it cool? Like ChatGPT didn't really give me an answer, but from like what that like understanding that I created, and me and ChatGPT we like connected.
Yeah,
It was
of course. You
yeah,
and
like
AI.
yeah, we and AI like we like partners on this it was just like a lot of like just authenticity. It's like their true voice.
It's her voice
It's her
alone.
voice without like it's just like it's kind of like a written journals kind of thing, which is always really cool. And like and what I think about that. But yeah,
Even actually Rescue, she did say she wrote Rescue in like an hour and a half.
that's insane.
If not less.
I remember when you tell me that I was like, no way.
Yeah,
Like
no, she wrote that so quickly, and she did say in an interview it was like a song that wrote you before you wrote it.
those are really cool. It's like it's like you can feel like this wasn't just an album to her. It was like a testimony.
Yes.
Which was like something I feel like is so beautiful in terms of like Christian artists. And yeah, like I just think that's like really beautiful. Yeah.
It's lovely. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Amy. I guess just to wrap up,
Yeah.
like the main like message that we're gathering from this album really is childlike zeal,
Yeah.
having that childlike perspective in
Yeah.
our faith, a reminder of where our identity is,
Yeah.
a message of hope in
Yeah.
times of darkness, in times of isolation and loneliness. Like, where does our faith lie?
Yeah.
Where does our identity lie? And really, this whole idea of being a child of a king, of Christ Jesus, I mean, hopefully we come back to it in a
Yeah.
future episode.
I was gonna ask before we kind of I guess like wrap up our fun time. It was really nice to talk about this album. Thanks for having me on the show. I mean, on
Thanks
the
for coming,
podcast.
Amy. You were really expensive to get here.
I know, it's okay. I know. You know what? Like, just keep on liking, keep on subscribing. But I did have
Hopefully
a
we can afford you
question.
again.
I know, I know. Yeah, we'll see, we'll see. But I just had a really quick question because, so you've been, a podcaster in the past, like, in the
now.
last
Somebody's
episode.
making the biz.
Last episode was really good. If you guys like haven't watched it, like, you guys should. It was like really good.
Almost 1 million streams, actually.
Yeah, anyway, crazy. But I was just curious. Now that you've been doing like this whole like analyzing the albums, because I know the last album was like a little bit different. Like you took a little bit different view, and this album we're talking about sounded a little different. How has this journey like shaped the way you view Christian music? Like, has it impacted the way you listen to like Christian music? I guess like outside of like this podcast kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think before I had a hard time believing that Christian music was good. Like
hot take, hot take.
I just kind of thought like, oh, all Christian music's kind of boring, or like, um, not like it just kind of like stays in the box.
Right,
of,
right.
like, this is the standard. Like, or like, I didn't see as much innovation
Right.
in Christian music.
Right.
And I wasn't just as like as inspired by it. I was doubtful that like the lyricism was as meaning. Like I know how much research and thoughtfulness some secular artists put in their song.
Right, right, right.
So I was doubtful that like I like that was going to be present in Christian music.
Right.
And I was very delightfully proven wrong about this. Like going in this experience, I've seen, as you said earlier, like the personal testimony that's depicted in these lyrics.
Yeah.
I think Lauren Daigle really showcases like the human experience. Like I think there's a reason why like millions and millions of people connect with these songs.
Yeah.
And especially like her reach is like out even past just like the Christian listeners, right?
Yeah.
Like even people who have never heard of the name of Jesus, who like may be listening to these lyrics can feel a sense of peace, like a sense of hope. And I think like that reach, that idea that like, you know, she's really depicting the human experience, I think that was very powerful to me. So I just grew an appreciation, I guess, for Christian music through this.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I think like your testimony, even your sharing of that, like it alludes to so much beauty of like taking the time to be like intentional with listening to music. Because I feel like I'm on the same route as you. Like even though it was like behind the scenes for a little bit of the first episode, it was like it made me stop and think like, what am I listening to? Like what, like even when it came to like secular music, it's like no, not like I didn't stop listening to secular music, but it was just like it made me take a step back to realize, okay, like what am I putting into my ears? What am I putting into my heart? Like what is what I'm listening to helping me be a true witness of God's love, you know? And I think like really taking the time to like understand these artists, it's like also like it's one thing to like listen to the music and like look at the music composition and you know and it's so beautiful, but it's like when you look into the artists, you're like connecting puzzle pieces together. You're like creating a story of like who this person is, who their identity in Christ is, like what their like journey to Christ is. And I think it's just so beautiful that like artists that you know is so mainstream like have that connection, have that core, because I feel like sometimes it's hard to like call ourselves Christians even though we say like you know we should. Like the reality is like sometimes in our world like it's really hard to do that. And so having like music like this and having like platforms like this where it's like music that connects to your soul. It's like not one that like you know like with KB's from last week, it was very poetic, very like there's stories like as you mentioned like we were talking about it earlier, it's like each song has a story, but with Lauren it's like she wants you to create your own story in her music. It's like a guided pathway to opening some sort of door.
Introspection.
Exactly, yeah. And so I think it's like I think it's just like the beauty of Christian music. And so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Once again, hopefully, you know, I hope that we can continue this conversation.
Yeah.
On having, you know, that childlike perspective.
Yeah.
Identity of, you know, child of Christ, child of a king, son of a king. Who knows? Who knows what we'll be talking about next episode?
You gotta be there to find out.
Yeah. But I guess that's all from us.
Yeah, that's it. That's
like, comment, subscribe.
See you later, folks.
Bye.